It's the SDG Podcast. Before we get started, you can check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com/podcast or find us on all the social medias, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Solution Design Group.
And we're podcasting. Say hello and introduce yourselves, podcasters.
Hey, I'm Chad Jetner.
Hello, I'm Peter Lawrence.
And I'm Kyle Bacher. And today we're going to talk about jobs and all of the jobs that we've had and kind of how they've helped us with consulting. Also, it's kind of a journey thing, and it's kind of you're never too late. You know, we all have a different way we got to where we're at. But we didn't all start at the same time in our lives. So at least I didn't. So I think the least amount of jobs that one of us has had is Chad. But you've had
yes
4.
Wait, Peter, how many did you have?
I don't know, 12 or so.
12. So does that mean you worked for 12 different companies, or you had like...
No. I mean, paperboy, waiter, warehouse, basement waterproofing,
basement waterproofing?
house moving,
When did that happen?
babysitter, all these.
So these are like high school, college age.
I only did waiter in high school
Okay.
and paperboy.
Okay. But now you're a paper man.
No, I am a paper
You've
man.
grown up.
And
So
it was not a real paperboy. It was a substitute paperboy, which is the worst of the worst.
what was the last job you had before you rocketed into the tech biz and lit it on fire?
Do we count teacher's assistant or do we go before that?
Was it a tech role?
Well, it was at college.
Okay. We'll call TA a job. But out of college, your first real tech job, what was that?
I'm a programmer,
Okay.
but it took me a while to
place.
get there.
Yeah. So, in those, what do you think you took away from those jobs? Like specifically, like delivering paper taught you to wake up really stupid early.
No. I delivered for the afternoon paper, so
Nice.
it was an after school job. I learned a couple things from being a paperboy sub and a paperboy friend to someone who had a paper route.
Okay.
Just because it seems faster doesn't mean that it will be faster. You
Okay.
should try it, but you should admit that you were wrong right away. Like, don't try it again. Don't think like, oh, we just did it a little bit worse. No. This was all about, the whole thing was get done as fast as you can, right? Because then you could go play.
Right.
So we tried really hard several times to come up with like, oh, we're going to do it on our bikes, right?
Okay.
You see, remember like Dennis the Menace and kids with their
chucking papers at
just
the door.
chucking papers, right? Yeah. It doesn't work.
It's not a real thing.
It looks good on TV. But Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Jones really want their paper tucked in their front screen door, and that's hard to do from a bike.
Yeah. Well, then you have to roll them up and rubber band them too.
Or fold them.
Or fold them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did a paper route one time for a guy that lived up the street, and it was awful.
You were smart enough not to sub more than once?
That was it. I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm getting up at like 3:30 in the morning, having to bundle all the papers together. Like they're not all ready to go. You got to put them together, all the different sections.
Chad, are you wearing beef gravy by chance? I'm just asking.
His cologne is jerky.
just a simple question. I'm not saying that there's a dog attacking him on the screen, but
I don't know what it's been a long week.
Waiting tables. Yeah. So you said you waited tables. What did that do for you? How does that translate into your tech job right now?
That's
as a
customer
consultant?
service. That's customer service all the way.
Yeah.
That is learning to read people, learning that even though some people, let me put it this way, certain wait staff should not wait on some people because they can't handle it, right?
Right. Yeah.
They can't turn on the yes ma'am, no ma'am, I don't know what happened here, let me go fix it, all of that. Like,
Right.
can't do the bend over backwards enough for some people.
Yeah.
And other time, but if you start out and lean into it a little bit and get some of the early things right, some of the little things don't get looked at quite as closely.
Right.
So
Was that your kind of your last gig?
that was my first real job that got paycheck and tax return.
Okay.
That wasn't even real waitering. That was what I call amateur waitering.
So like you're working at some kind of buffet or
I worked at a retirement home
okay.
in the dining room. So I
Okay.
learned, I think the clientele were a little bit more picky, maybe a little bit more set in their ways.
That hot tea water better be hot.
It better, I don't want to come away without a blister when I touch that teapot because, I want it to hurt. Yeah. So, but the number of tables was like ridiculously low, like 4 a night.
Okay.
There were no tips. You were just waiting tables.
But it's a good experience dealing with tough situations, being on stage, and
things that you don't have control
performing,
over. Somebody else doing stuff.
Or organizing things in your head, memory, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So Chad, your jobs, you said you had 4 or 6 or something.
I did not have a lot of jobs. I had
He just came onto the earth, programming from day one.
yeah,
I believe it.
I didn't have much. I had out of high school I worked at, I don't know if you guys remember, there was a place called the Record Shop. It was in Brookdale, Ridgedale, Rosedale, all the shopping malls, right?
The Dales.
And it was a smaller version of Musicland, right? So like Musicland / Sam Cootie, they were like really, they were huge. And then we were like the little sliver and slightly more, I don't know. So we were smaller. But the nice thing about that job is I got to listen to a ton of music, right? Like I got to learn everything about like every new release. And before that, I was primarily like just listening to, what was on the radio, Guns N' Roses. But starting there, we got to listen to all the bands that were coming through First Avenue, right? And then we'd get tickets and we'd be able to go to First Avenue and we'd be in all of these shows that we had no business going to. So like young Chad got to see Nirvana at First Avenue. Young Chad got to see Soundgarden and all of these like really, really great bands who at the time were
just kind of starting out.
Yeah. And then we got to see them and it was incredible. And it got me to appreciate music differently than I ever did before. It didn't really teach me any life skills, just that I listened to really crappy music before that. And there's better options out there.
I mean, did you learn to make recommendations to folks? Like, hey, I really like Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. Can you tell me who I should be buying next?
No, I recommended frequently. So I did, yes. I recommended that they go to Musicland for that crap. um, that's usually the recommendation that I gave.
So you weren't
Um,
in charge of growth for the sales of the
well,
store.
the company doesn't exist anymore, so take
Who's
from
a
that
specialist?
what you will. But no, it was neat. I mean, personally, I was young, when I had that gig, and I was the assistant manager of the store within a few months. And I don't know why or how, right? Like I wouldn't have trusted me with keys. And you get the keys, you lock up, you take the money, you deposit it at the Marquette Bank across the street every night. I mean, it was kind of a lot of responsibility for the age that I was at, but it was it was it was a really neat gig. I mean, I'm kind of glad that the company went out of business, because I could totally see myself have just being like comfortable there and still
Working your way up to manager and just coasting.
Yeah, like I would have loved to just stay there forever, like just be the guy like John Cusack sitting behind this counter at a record store,
Sure,
judging everybody coming through and all their musical selections and saying like, yeah, um this is horrible. Go to Musicland for the go to Musicland for the
for your
Chris
Bon
Cross.
Jovi.
Your Bon Jovi.
Oh, Chris Cross.
Remember
Yeah.
Chris Cross? They
I
make
do.
you want to jump.
They did.
Yeah. Yeah. That was my first gig, right? And that was so nice. And
But
then
you learned a lot about responsibility too. I mean,
yeah. So I went from that place to and then I worked at Mystic Lake Casino for half a decade, maybe more than half a decade. And
say it like that, it sounds like a long time.
yeah, well, I think about my IT career, and it's like me and my buddy Greg talk about this all the time. I'm like, man, we've been doing this. I've been doing this a quarter century. You've been doing this a quarter century. Between the two of us, we have half a century of experience,
Right.
and yeah, so half a decade at the casino, mostly dealing cards. But started out doing other little things. Started out doing in the slot machine department. They had different departments: slot machines, blackjack, and then custodial and all this other stuff. And at the end of it, I was dealing cards, and that was an amazing job. That was another one where I probably could have just done that for a career and been happy. The career trajectory there was that. And then you go to Vegas, right? And you deal at Vegas, different games. So
You just didn't want to move, or
I was mostly lazy. And I'm very habitual. So I didn't want to have to pick up new habits in a different city, in a different state.
sure.
And then I got into IT. That's it.
So was there something that broke you out of dealing blackjack to, like, somebody tapped you on the shoulder and said, "Hey, Java"?
Yeah, well, kind of actually. So after 5 years, what happened? My brother was in the Navy. He got out of the Navy, and he was in the Navy. One of his specialty. He was in the IT. He was part of IT somehow on a ship. He landed this gig at this local company called ROI, great company at the time, doing ERP management software.
Okay.
And he's talked me into coming on board, and I'm like, well, I don't really know anything about anything, and I just picked up a book and I started reading, and then
Right.
I
Started doing.
yeah, which is
Nice.
kind of how it all came together. Literally just started doing things, and that was it.
I mean,
This is
that's
really
that's
boring. Is this the content that the people want to hear?
well, I mean, that's
I
a
think
nice
that,
way entry.
The
Yeah.
nugget I got from that was that you're able to make that shift and teach yourself, and it's not something everybody can do. But you're able to make that change and take that risk and get into something else, and it's never too late. Like, you didn't miss the boat because you dealt blackjack for 5 years.
Yeah, I don't know. I think almost anybody could do that, right? Like, you just have to have the proper motivation. And for me, one of the motivators was, dealing blackjack. I worked swing shift, right? So I was 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. or 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. And then weekends, you just don't get weekends off. So my weekend was like Wednesday, Thursday or something, right?
Nice.
And so the proper motivator was, at the time, I mean, I had second kid, and it was nice to see them, right? Because I didn't really when I dealt blackjack. So for me, it was two things. One, I don't know that we realize how lucky we are as being like non-service industry people, non-retail, non-whatever, and having like a schedule like Monday through Friday. I work 6 to 6. That's not a thing for a lot of folks. And
No.
You
The
realize
world is designed for the
us.
9 to 5ers.
Yeah, I have an appreciation for service industry folks specifically because of that now, because it sucks. Like, your weekend and society's weekends are completely different. And I lived like that for 5 years. And then even my day, right? Like, actually working swing shift was kind of nice because I had access to a lot of things during the day that, most folks didn't. But when I got off of work, I couldn't go to a bar. There's no happy hour after that, after that night.
But it drives you to do more, to want more.
I mean, it took me 5 years. And I didn't, honestly, at the time, I didn't even realize what I was missing, right? By not having all of it.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I was necessarily driven. Like I said, I could have been just that, and I would have been pretty happy, right? And it wasn't always a good gig, right? Because at the time, I mean, this was the 90s, and there was no smoking indoors was still a thing. So I was at the casino getting, literally probably smoking 6 packs a day through all the second hand stuff. And then you go down to the break room and it's even worse. And then, so 6 packs a day, no happy hours, but I didn't really, you're fairly well compensated as a dealer for your skill set and for your age. Like, we made pretty decent money. But the work environment was horrible. The people were very rarely happy. I mean, it was a rare day where you had a fella that was, I mean, guys went on runs, but like that wasn't frequent at all. You're usually taking and not giving away. So
based upon the odds, the house always wins, and you're playing the house and the other people were not. So,
and the thing that people don't get, like, it's almost 50-50, right?
Right.
I just have, as the house, I have more money than you, right? So you're going to win half the time, but eventually the house, that 0.5%, or I think with blackjack, the odds at the time, based on, like, we were we were doing 6 decks, right? So your odds, the more decks that are in there, your odds are worse.
Right.
And so, like, we were taking, I don't know, I think it's 53%. So you still had, I mean, if guys would walk away, they could win, you could win good money.
Yeah.
But if you stayed there if you put in an 8-hour shift in front of me, I'm probably going to take all your money, right? Like, there's no chance.
The first time I went to a casino, I played blackjack at a $5 table, and I had read a bunch, did some studying, and I was doing progressive betting, and I got up to about $250 from starting with 25.
Nice.
And the dealer looked at me, because I had told him it was my first time. He looked at me and he goes, "You done pretty good. You know what I'd do if I were you?" And I said, "No." He said, "I'd leave. Otherwise, it's all coming back."
Right.
So I flipped him a $5 chip and went and cashed out and went home.
Wow.
Because I figured he knew more than I did about the whole situation. So
What's
Yeah.
his name? Chad?
I don't know. Maybe it was Chad. I'm sure the casino would not have been happy that he's given advice like that.
One
Well,
of the things that we did at the casino, a job I had briefly was there's a job at the casino for in the slot department. The guy that comes around and helps you out with whatever questions, right? So,
Right.
Explaining the machines to folks, like that's I did that for a little bit, and then if you win a big jackpot, going to the guy, collecting their tax information, right? And they got to fill out a 1099. I think this is what it was. If they win a certain amount, and then getting all that processed, and then if they win a lot of money, you actually have to open the machine, validate all the chips, look for the security tape, make sure that everything's like right and proper. And that was a neat gig for a while. But the people and the people you deal with in those situations were much nicer than blackjack, right? Because they're not sitting right in front of you, just feeding you money.
right.
I usually saw people either where they had a question or
Won a big
or they
jackpot.
just won a lot of money and they're exceptionally happy. So
Right.
the highest payout I've ever given was I gave somebody won $250,000 once.
Wow.
Oh my.
And they were pretty happy about that, obviously. And when it's like that, we pooled for those things, we pooled our tips. And
nice.
so that guy, $250,000, I think he gave us like $5,000 in tips.
Oh wow.
So our shift had a really nice,
Yeah.
a really nice night. But other times, like other dudes, like we've had multiple $50,000 payouts or $100,000. Those guys might not tip any, like they might give you like $20 or something, right? Like,
Yeah.
here's 20. One guy won 50 and gave. There was a girl that did the same job I did. He won 50 grand and bought her a diamond ring so that she couldn't share it, and that was great.
Wow. Very generous.
Very generous. I think it came with a proposal that she said no to, but it was she kept the ring. So
Well, he tried.
an attempt was made, but I don't know, man. I mean, it's the casino was great for a while. Dealing with a lot of different people, customer interactions were different than you'll ever see anywhere else, and the environment was decidedly unhealthy. And your access to like the niceties that we have as 9-to-5ers or whatever you work, it just wasn't there. So it would have been a different thing if I had stayed there, right? Like I probably wouldn't be, I wouldn't have the habits I do today. I wouldn't be the person I am today if I stayed there. Obviously, I mean that's a dopey statement, but yeah, it's true. All right, I'm done talking. I'm gonna have a slice of pizza here really quick while we talk to Kyle about his.
Yeah.
What did
All
you
right.
have, Kyle? Like 2 jobs?
Job number 1, Kyle.
I actually remembered another one. So I have
40?
37
37.
jobs I've had.
All right, everybody. Put on your seatbelts. Buckle up your seatbelts. We're going through. No, just kidding.
All right.
Let's hit the high points.
So my summer jobs throughout high school, I worked just weird, taking orders at Cable Value Network and cleaning a bakery and that kind of stuff, assembling hydraulic hose connectors. And I did a day for Dolphin Temp, putting shelves together. And they tried to hire me because I did like 3 times as many as their employees normally do.
Oh, did you learn any
I created a
lessons from that?
system. Yes. And I turned it into a game. So it was like fun to do it. Let's see how much I can do. A lot of like service jobs, waiting tables. It started with hosting. And then
You started with hosting?
Yeah, just for a bit. I wanted to get a server job at Applebee's at Ridgedale.
Isn't hosting the above the waiting?
No, hosting
No.
is just seating people and helping out, greeting people at the door, taking them to their table. You might tell them the specials. So then, delivering pizza, waiting tables. I loved my Domino's job. That was a blast. And
What made that one fun?
I got to deliver to a lot of sports people,
Sports
hockey players,
Okay.
like some of the North Stars, Neil Broughton, Brian Bellows, Mike Badano,
While they were playing or at their houses?
at their houses.
Nice.
One of the deliveries was at, I just said his name and forgot it, but they were
Neil
all
Broughton?
over there.
Mike Badano?
Yeah. Neil Broughton is one of the greatest people to ever meet. Really
Yeah.
humble, really nice. He'd give drivers hockey sticks if they asked for one. I never asked for one. I should have.
Yeah.
Security guard, and then
You were in charge
I
of
got into
security
work-
somewhere?
Sim security. I guarded the Shillard interchange buildings. The
I don't
Shillard
even-
Tower.
Oh,
What is Shillard?
Yeah.
I know. I can answer this. That's 394 and 169, right?
Yep. That's that tall white
That was,
building, and then the shorter white building.
Oh, okay.
That's where my first IT job. ROI was based out of Shillard Parkway. They were the one right behind. So they were between the tall one, and I remember at the time there was a bar down there called Santorini's. So we were the building between the tall white building. We were the little white building, and Santorini's was like right across the street, I think, if I'm remembering that right.
Yeah.
Nice.
So the serving jobs were really the kind of the ones that taught me the most. And while I was a server, I did a lot of training. I was a server trainer at Applebee's, and I opened up the Knollwood store. And that taught me kind of how to train, just doing it a lot. The customer service side, sense of urgency, hustle, like getting stuff done, driving, the people aspect of it, like being entertaining. I worked for my tips.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to, I would get reviews like, or comments like, we came in a bad mood and left in a really good mood because of our server. So I did that for a while, but it was not what I wanted to do my whole life. I
Okay.
was like, I can't, and I was just wondering like what I was going to do. Then I discovered the internet and computers.
I've
What
heard of
year?
those things.
And
What year was this, Kyle?
the year was 1996. And so I think I was,
your first ISP?
my first internet service provider was AOL.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Nice.
And I had an Acer 120 megabit processor, or whatever it's called, megabyte.
Megahertz.
Yeah, cycles. I think it had four
Peter, who was yours? Just curious now.
4 meg
Your first
RAM.
ISP.
I did min.net for a long time. I think it was called. I don't even know how I stumbled on that one. It was private. I mean, that was after dialing into college.
Yeah.
At college, I had some.
Once I got that computer, I started to play games, and the games demanded more and more hardware performance. And so I started replacing memory and adding cards and doing all that stuff, getting things working. So that kind of sucked me into doing stuff with computers, and I started building computers. I got a job at a computer retail outfit, a reseller, Computer Renaissance. People would buy and sell computers. So that's when I got into sales. So I was there to do sales, and I cleared the shelves. And so we had a backlog of stuff that we bought from people but needed to be fixed. So I would help the techs fix stuff so that I could sell it.
Nice.
Yeah. Then I learned from a buddy that was selling mobile homes how much he was making in that business. So I moved to New Mexico, and I sold mobile homes there for about 8 months. And then I moved to Texas and sold there for another 8 months.
Were you just following the tornadoes around and selling replacement homes?
I was following the opportunity around.
The homes that I sold in New Mexico blew over to Texas.
Yeah. In Texas, I went there as a sales manager, not just a salesman.
Wow.
So, and I did that for a while, and there's a whole big crazy story around that. I won't tell right now. But then I came back and got my server job back at Applebee's, and
you went all through that and came back to server.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to work in the mobile home business anymore. I didn't like it. There's a lot of shady characters. It's hard to be honest amongst thieves.
Yes.
Not all of them,
will
though. Yeah.
underbid you, right?
Right. But coming back, I worked at Domino's for like another 8 months to a year. And a couple of the regulars were in IT at Gander Mountain. And one day, I would talk to computers with them.
Like the regular customers, or they were working there too?
They were customers at Applebee's that were regulars. They would sit at the bar, and
Got it.
I would talk tech with them all the time. And then one day they asked me if I wanted to be the tech guy for their corporate office. So I went in there and did an interview in my Applebee's shorts and
wait, you wore shorts?
Shoes full of food. Yeah. And that was that got me into the tech business, and I did tech support, got laid off, worked for myself. Then I got another server job to fill the gap because I ran out of money and I needed cash. So then I got a job in a call center and as a bench tech, fixing CD and DVD duplicators and printers. And then from there, because I didn't like that place, they were up to no good. And then I went and did tech support for office furniture, moving, installing cubicle storage, moving and installing place. And that's where I met SharePoint. They said, our parent company is making us move to SharePoint. Do you want to do the project? I said, yeah, I'll do it. I said, but what the heck is SharePoint? And I took to it pretty fast. I did the project. It was really successful. Then I took it through an upgrade, which created a big problem for me because I used
all the features. I
used stuff that they took away from me. They took away my portal areas and replaced them with content types. So our whole online manual that was maintained across all these different departments was in here, and then it got shifted to something else and stopped working. So I spent 48 hours pretty much straight drinking coffee, fixing it. But then I left there, and because tech support, I kind of hit a ceiling. Like I didn't feel there was anywhere to go in that company. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to like do SharePoint. And so I got a job as a SharePoint consultant at a place that did consulting and training. And then I got, after doing that for a couple of years, I got the job at SDG.
Yeah.
Then I took a 10-month hiatus, worked for the county, and then I came back. And yeah, I'm here
You
now.
tried to fix it from the
You'll
inside.
never be rid of me. I'm never leaving because I love this place. So
You're never,
through
wait,
all
you're
of
never leaving
that,
SDG?
what?
You're never leaving SDG.
No, I have no plans to ever leave. And I will dodge every promotion they throw at me, which will be 0. So it'll be easy. No, through all that, moving, one of the reasons I had so many jobs is like I was stubborn and
Oh yeah.
I had no fear of quitting. So things would happen that I wouldn't like, and I would be like, okay, I'm out of here. Yep, you yelled at me in front of like 15 other employees about something. I don't like being yelled at. See you later. Just stuff like that. And, you kind of create that habit, and you have this trail of like never working at places for more than a year or two. And then you're like, okay, I can't do that anymore. I got to just stick with it. And so I did. I had some tough projects, and, it's like you just want to escape sometimes when things are going really rough. But I tell you what, hanging in there, sticking with it on those projects, and then succeeding and finishing and getting through that, those are the projects I'm most proud of.
Right. Those make the difference.
Yeah. But I started that path of learning well before I got into the biz.
Right.
I had built computers for all my friends and family and was tech support for all of them. I was tech support for the music store downstairs and the bar. And so I was doing all of that. And you learn a lot. And, I'm glad that Windows and Microsoft products and things like that are imperfect and difficult and need people that, do that for a living.
That are willing to dig into a problem and keep
Yeah.
going until it gets fixed, right?
Yeah. It's, you learn your niches and what you like and what you're good at. And,
Did you just say Microsoft products are imperfect?
yes.
Is that what I heard? Is that that feels like
Because they're moving so fast. It's like,
Oh yeah.
You got to drop a new version every year. So, and then now that we're in the cloud, it's a totally new game. It's service management.
Right.
And
they change the service every 6 months.
you can't fix your own issues. You got to go through support, and now they have to support their stuff. So I think their stuff is getting way better. I mean, it's better than it's ever been. I like it. But I'm jaded because I did SharePoint consulting for 12 years and Office 365 stuff. So yeah, I love all of it. And it's imperfect, but it's trying to serve a wide audience, trying to be innovative, trying to get things out fast and improvements. And I mean, they're like, and then there's all the security stuff in the back end and all the Azure stuff they're doing. And yeah, it's
Exciting times.
I'm amazed it works as well as it does with how much there is going on. And some of these tools are really cool. So, you go through all of that and you learn lessons along the way. Like, it's never too late. Like, you don't know what the future brings. But you got to start, and you got to find things you're interested in. So if you want to do tech stuff, if you want to do programming, development, low code, whatever it is, or even on the, project management side of things, project delivery, product management. There's all these different ways you can engage, and getting your foot in the door, I think is possible. I think you can find that first step that'll start you down the path that'll get you to the thing that you want to do.
I mean, even though you got sort of offered your first job at a bar that you were working at, I suspect that you would have made it there on your own eventually too, right?
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I knew I could do the tech stuff.
Right.
Like, okay, I can take this apart and put it back together and fix it and all of that. But it was cool. They gave me a lot of autonomy to, for how I was going to run tech support.
Right.
So I got to develop my own ways of doing things. And so I bet I had a guy that worked under me. I was the lead. And so we managed our tasks like a baseball team, in the dugout, on deck, at bat. And prioritization, batting order, and it was kind of like a Kanban that we did.
Right. It is a Kanban. Yeah, absolutely.
And then you kind of develop a philosophy and a personal code of honor because you are an admin. You do have access to things. And you're working on people's computers. And
yep.
So you really have to, be honest.
Chad, you've been an administrator before, right?
I've done.
You've had administrative credentials before on major systems.
Yeah. I mean, in a bunch of different capacities. I've done network administration and
right.
Not really like sysadmin type stuff.
But if you wanted to, you could delete the whole farm and walk away, right?
It's one of my favorite stories. Is my last gig. I didn't intentionally delete the whole farm and walk away, but I did set up database replication incorrectly and wipe out an entire production database because we were pointing at the wrong primary and said, hey, look like this guy, and this guy that we wanted it to look like was an empty database, which was an incredibly fun exercise and terrifying.
Yeah. But like Kyle was saying, and Kyle, you keep going, you do learn, even though you have that ability to wreak havoc intentionally if you choose to not do that, right?
Right. Yeah, you could get to something that has information that you're not supposed to look at, you're not supposed to know, right. Which is fine. And I don't look at it. I don't even really look at the stuff people have in their cube when I'm sitting at their computer. I don't really look through their computer. I just look at the issue that I'm fixing. Right. But you learn how to become more efficient. You learn how to innovate your job. Okay, now we're going to start imaging. Now we can image multiple systems. Now I can set up a thing where in our training room, I can image the whole thing after the, to do a whole reset. And I have all my apps and I have my standard images and I've got my Dell certification so that I can do warranty repair work on our own stuff and removable batteries.
Back in the day.
Yeah. So there, you learn so much along the way, and maybe you're not doing those exact things, but you still kind of carry all that with you. Right. And now I'm doing kind of a hybrid of a number of jobs. So it's it's hard to what do you do? Well, I do tech support and procurement and I do service management for all of our systems, and I build low-code solutions to make people's jobs easier, add more time to their week. I maintain everything, sign up. I mean, it's just, there's such a variety of the stuff that I do. And I love that I can cross all these different platforms and technologies and have enough of a grasp and know them enough to use them. I learned early on that it's really important to use to know how to use the apps that you have to use. As a server, you have to learn their POS system and where everything is. Right. And so every server job I got, my focus was learning that computer. I didn't really need to learn how to like walk over to a table and take an order and check back on. I had all that down to a science. But it was you learn that system really well. And then I would become the trainer after a while, because people would come to me with questions, and I was tech support before I was in tech support and didn't even know it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I love service jobs. I love to serve and be in that like supporting role, propping people up, solving their problems. I think it's I don't want to like pump it up too much. I think it's a special calling. But it is. It's like I'm kind of drawn to it.
It was a skill.
I really like people.
And that helps with consulting, right? And
yeah,
while there are people that cannot wait tables because they don't have the temperament for it, there are people that cannot consult for the same reason, right?
Yeah. It's, and it's not wrong. I mean, they're not flawed. Like, no. There's stuff I can't do.
Right.
I would support all the C-level people at Gander, and I go into the CEO's office, and he'd get up and sit in one of the guest chairs, and I'd sit at his desk, and I'd say, "I'm the only one that can do this, right? You don't let anybody else sit at your desk." He's like, "No, you're the only one." I'm like, "All right." And then I'd say something like, "Well, I guess you're wondering why I called you in here today."
That's right.
It's just not working out. So we're gonna have to. I learned a ton. I learned a ton from him and from those people I supported. Because as I'm working on their computers, we're chatting,
right,
and getting to know each other. And it's weird when people have computer problems and they come to you. The first thing they do is trash themselves for 5 minutes. Oh, I'm so stupid. It's like, no, you're not. You just don't know this thing. Or you just made a mistake, or it's just happened. Like, I don't work with any stupid people. I haven't met many.
What about consultants when they bring you a broken laptop?
I fix it.
They blame the laptop, or do they blame the?
Our philosophy is that we insure ourselves against stuff like that. So accidents happen, and the punishment that they pour upon themselves on their own heads, the punishment of the guilt they feel is plenty. I don't have to add to it. I try to diffuse it. Like, it's, stuff happens. I'll replace the screen. It will never be the same. That bezel will never go back on the same way. But it's like, oh yeah, we'll get you a new Mac. That's fine. Stuff happens. We'll just try to use it as a trade-in for the next one.
There you go. Those are the funny things.
It's I really encourage like younger people and older people alike to open themselves up to possibilities that they can change, that they can get into this type of work, or something different. something better. But not everybody, not everybody can. And so it's like, it's not an answer. It's not a snarky answer, like the whole learn to code meme or whatever became kind of snarky. Like somebody didn't like their job and
they got hired.
There's so much, like, it's not just coding. There's so many facets to working in the tech world. Business analysts and QA people, there's a lot in there to where people can probably find some way to fit in with that and something to do and find their niche. And then once you do that, you're exposed to a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And you can kind of offshoot into that direction. But if you work, the key is trying to shine, work hard and stand out and, don't cause issues. That all helps. All those soft skills help. Getting beat up by people when you waiting on them, like that all makes you better. Learning to take it, learning to not react to it, not to take it personally.
And learning to shift it and change it and change the story a little bit, right?
Yeah. But like we're all here, we all work for SDG now. And we all came from really different backgrounds.
A lot of different stories on the paths to SDG, that's for sure.
Yeah. I learned to play guitar in my 40s. It was something I kind of wanted to do my whole life and thought I had missed the boat on. I thought it had been too late. And then this guy at the bar kept badgering me to go over to his house and play. And I finally got sick of being badgered and took him up on it. And the rest is history. Yeah. Now I am a bad guitar player.
Now but you're a Midland guitar player, right?
The key is guitar player is in that title.
Right. Very true.
Yeah. Chad, parting thoughts?
Are we at parting thoughts?
Yeah.
Read a book. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't buy into the fact that anybody can be self-taught, right? Just need a proper motivation. That's it. I don't know, Kyle. That's a crappy parting thought. How about this? Being a blackjack dealer in the 90s was horrible. Probably a nicer gig today. Actually, if I had that same gig today, I'd probably still be there, right? Because a lot of the health hazards don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
It's also a horrible parting thought. So far, the current season of Mandalorian is uninspired. That's my parting thought. I'm incredibly disappointed.
All right, I've got a better parting
thought. I'm waiting till they're all out. I'm not gonna watch them until they're all available. So
Yeah,
I'm not doing that. But
don't spoil it.
My parting thought is that if it's something that you think you want to do, you should try. And whether that's picking up a book, doing an online class, doing something about it. If you are happy using a computer, building a computer, doing anything with computers, you're probably going to be able to fit in eventually at SDG.
Yeah, I think, my parting thought, you see all these pictures of a cubicle and a meme, talking about how horrible, like that's your life now, being in that cubicle and office work and that kind of stuff. And it's like, maybe for some people it's like that, but it doesn't have to be. Like, it can be fun to work and sit it can be fun to work at a job and where you have a cubicle and you sit and work on your computer. I just never felt like I made a bad decision by doing that. I never felt trapped. I always felt like a free agent and my own advocate, which is why I would just be willing to do something different.
I think it's that whole cubicle thing is strange to me because I mean, right now I have 4 different desks, right, for my current role. I have 4 different desks in 2 different states, and it's if I'm spending my day at my cubicle right now, like that's a bad day, right? Like, so I kind of agree with half of what you're saying, Kyle. Like the cubicle thing, don't be afraid to sit in a computer, sit in a cube and write code or configure or whatever the heck we do in cubicles these days. But man, if I spend my day at my cubicle, I've probably failed that day. I spend the vast majority of my day.
Most people aren't sitting in their cubicles all day long.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, but when I'm in my cubicle or my office or wherever, I'm lost in work.
Yeah.
And then
if
all
you're
of
in
a
the
sudden
zone,
it's like everybody's gone and the lights turn off because the motion detector isn't close enough to me. But
I think,
no, I was always doing work that I liked to be doing. And so it didn't really, the environment wasn't as important to me.
right.
But working from home has been very nice, and having the flexibility, the hybrid has been very nice. And I think that's just how it's going to be now.
Yep.
So,
I
yeah,
feel like we blew past our parting thoughts.
I had a parting thought and then I parted from it and just kept rambling. Well, I think that's our podcast. Thanks for listening. Let's say goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
goodbye.
Goodbye.
Solution Design Group is a digital product consultancy in Minneapolis. Check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com or look for us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram at Solution Design Group.